I watched Volume, so you don't have to. So Volume is a 2023 Kenyan series that was released just last week, and there's been a lot of buzz around it. Personally, I was also really excited for it, but I must say, once I finally got the chance to watch it, I was disappointed, and today we're going to talk about it. The series is directed by Tosh Gitonga, known for his movies Disconnect, which I also still have to talk about because that's another set of movies that have infuriated me entirely. And a new director I haven't really seen on the scene. He's called Abu Melita, and it follows the life of Benja. It's supposed to be a musical drama. It follows the life of Benja, who's this up and coming artist, a rapper, msanii, and this show literally drove me to insanity. And to show you guys that I'm actually really dedicated to the cause, I watched this show twice. So it has 6 episodes. I watched it twice. I watched the first round, and then I went and watched each, writing notes. I have the notes right here on the side. You can't see them, but yeah, just because I don't like being misinterpreted, so I don't like misinterpreting people, I had all my facts written down. I've been really excited to talk about the series since it came out. I wasn't able to watch it when it first came out, but because I have so much to say, if I did this in one video, I think we'd be here for like an hour, because I have so much to talk about and dissect about this show that it can be in one video. So this will be a 2-parter, and yeah, I'll post the first one. This is what you're going to be seeing, talking about episode 1 to 3 and a bit of an analysis about the show, and then we will have episode 4 to 6 and my final thoughts on the show. So if this is your kind of content, please stick around. We're going to have a lot of fun, and let me start with episode 1. Before I start, however, I'd like to put out a disclaimer that these are my personal opinions. This is not meant to bash anyone who worked on the film, or to say, oh, these people are terrible actors. No, don't go and cancel anyone. These are just my personal opinions and sharing my thoughts on this show, being a film student as well. Like, just talking about the cinematography, talking about the script writing, things you might have missed if you're just a normal watcher. You don't really look at these things, but things that I couldn't overlook as I was watching. So episode 1, we start with a mysterious group of robbers who are on roller skates, and they're called the Blades, and they basically go around Nairobi and they're terrorizing people and stealing from them. And that's when we get to meet Castro. Castro is one of our main characters, and he's just the designated driver for these Blades as they escape the cops or whatever, but he himself gets caught by Kanjo and has to basically go with them. He lies to them that he's going to get money from his dad, but really he takes them back to their base where they do all their crime, and basically steals from these cops, gets his people to beat them up, just cool stuff to do on a Saturday morning. So as Castro's men are beating up these police officers who were expecting a bribe but instead got a beating, he calls up his friend, and that's when we get to meet Benja. So Benja is an up and coming rapper. He is one of the finalists in a competition that is coming up, and Castro basically tells him that there's this chick called Ivy who's an influencer that he wants him to meet, because Ivy is going to help him, just basically put his name out there, gain clout, just bring an audience to him. And we also see that Benja is raised by a single mom. He is struggling, they're struggling, they don't have money, they've been given an eviction notice. We cut to Ivy, the influencer who was mentioned before, and she's called the vlog queen throughout the entire show, but she only ever does live streams, which was very confusing to me, because I was like, the interpretation of social media is very hard to understand in shows, because they always just think, I don't know, the interpretation of it is always so weird, and I never get it. But anyways, I'm digressing. So she's basically on live asking her followers, like, oh, who do you think will win? Because there's this big wrap-up competition between Benja and another female rapper, and the grand prize is 1 million Kenyan shillings. Remember this because it's very important. They hype it up the entire first episode. This is all he has. It's his big break, because that 1 million can help Benja with his mom issue, the financial issues. Castro is his manager, and yeah, he wants in on the money too, because nani anakataa pesa. But then we also learn that Ivy has a troubled home life, and the way we find this out is literally so funny to me, because she's on the live and literally you just hear her mom screaming in the background because the dad is beating the hell out of her, and she keeps pausing in between her live stream because she doesn't want people to hear. Legit, this girl stands up, and instead of like just going outside and being like, oh, like, mom, are you okay, like, is everything okay, she closes her door. And I was just like, oh, that's such a, oh, okay, yeah, that's what we're doing. That's cool, that's interesting. But I guess it was because she was used to it, but still, that's pretty cold-hearted to do, because her mom is getting her lights out, like she's getting punched repeatedly. But anyways, hi Duru. Then we meet Lucy. There's so many characters we're meeting, so I hope you guys can keep up. So far we've met Castro, Benja, Ivy, and now Lucy. Lucy is Benja's girlfriend, and how we're introduced to her, Benja is walking, he's supposed to be going to church, and she comes up and she's like, oh, are you going to like miss church because your mom's really into it, your mom said you have to go to church, which is something that's really important in the script, because Benja was raised in the church and they basically are the reason his music has made it. So through Lucy we learn that Benja's dad actually ditched them, like he left the whole family and stuff. So this comes up because Benja talks about how for him to further his music, he needs to do it also outside the church. He's not ungrateful for what the church has done for him, but he needs to make it outside the church, which is something his dad never did, which is why he never left the church, so his music never went further than that. And this, okay, we're supposed to be rooting for these people as a couple. We've just been introduced to them. But the next line that Lucy says is, I was literally cackling because I was like, what, are these people supposed to be in love? Because she, like, how we find out that the dad actually left them is because of the line she says. And he basically says, oh, that's why my dad could never like make it in music, because he never left the church. And she legit says that's not the only thing he left. And I was like, ouch. And she's surprised when he gets pissed because she says sorry, and he's like, why are you saying sorry? It's the truth. But he's still pissed because she's hurt his feelings, and understandably he's like, I'm not going to walk with you anymore because that wasn't a joke to make. It's obviously really painful for Benja still that his dad left them. Anyway, we move on to our fifth protagonist. I don't know how to count. He's called Smalls. So the way we're introduced to Smalls is Castro is rushing somewhere and he has the bag. Oh, I forgot to mention, when Castro was working with the Blades, they stole a bunch of phones from both the people in the bars that they stole from and the cops themselves. Castro insists that he switch them off, so he's rushing to try and find a place to hide them. He bumps into Smalls, and the masks that were earlier shown in the series fall out of his bag. And Smalls basically asks him like, yo, weren't these the masks that were used in the robbery that was talked about this morning? And Castro tries to clear that story, and he basically tells him, just keep the mask, but make sure you vote for Benja, because this competition requires votes. Like, it requires how many hits you have and for you to vote. Smalls is like, cool, new mask, fancy, fun, and goes about his day. So Castro has an older brother called Maish who owns an automotive shop, and initially I didn't know it was his brother because I thought it was just his boss because of how he talks to him, but anyways, that doesn't matter. And he works with this lady. She's not important in any way because she appears for like only 2 seconds and she has no lines, despite being very, very important in the trailer. And he basically goes to that lady and he's like, oh, I have a buyer, we can sell these phones. But Maisha's like, we're not going to sell these here, we run a clean shop, like you don't bring stolen goods here, stop stealing from shops, I'm not going to let you hide those here or try to sell them here. So Castro has this bag full of phones and nowhere to take them. And he's stressing out because he's like, oh, because my brother won't let me sell them. And the brother is the leader of the Castro, and his brothers are like part of this brother syndicate of crime. So Maish calls all the shots. So, like I had mentioned earlier, Benja was raised by his church. They basically promoted his music, they supported him the entire way. And for some reason, on this particular day, they have church at night. They have church at night, and Benja is like a mini celeb because they revere him. It's almost kind of weird how much they revere him because aside from the church choir singing, he gets to perform. And during this church service, Ivy is told by Castro to meet Benja there because Benja will be stubborn. He won't go to see her himself. And while she's there, she sits next to Lucy and Lucy's best friend. The best friend is not important because, like I said, so many of these characters appear once and then they're never talked about again, and it's always so I don't get it, but hey, so that's when we first get, Lucy is kind of threatened because Ivy, is this hip influencer and she's just boring. She doesn't have anything to her. She can't compete. But afterwards, Ivy introduces herself to Benja, and Castro basically comes and tells Ivy, oh, I'll drop you home, I don't mind dropping you home. So Ivy gets out of the church. This is after the concert, after he's performed in church, and Castro asks Benja, yo, can you keep this bag for me? And Benja is obviously like, no, I'm not going to keep this bag unless I know what's inside it. When he opens and sees its phone, he gets mad at Castro. He's like, yo, I thought you stopped this behavior, because apparently Castro just steals things all the time. I'm not keeping this here, they can be tracked, blah 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 blah. And he's like, no, I switched them off, they can't be tracked. So Benja says, I can't keep them in my house, let's find somewhere else to keep them. And they go to some rundown junkyard. At the same time that this is happening, we follow Smalls to, will I get demonetized if I say this, to a brothel. Yeah, it's I don't know why we needed to see that. And this guy is around there so many times, like literally when literally when he arrives, one of the ladies is like, the usual, and I'm just like I'm reliving all this in my head, and it's so excruciating. So he decides, well, they're doing whatever they're doing, he's going to wear his mask. And for some reason the police come, and this is never really explained why the police come to that particular place, but they start like rounding everyone up, and they're like, oh, Citri, what. And admittedly, you could say they were doing illegal activities because that is illegal in Kenya, but no one called to come and say, oh, there's this activity happening. And so many plot holes. But basically Smalls gets arrested because he's wearing the mask, and one of the cops is like, oh, you must have been one of those sneaky little thieves that stole from our cops today. So he's taken into custody. At the same time, on this other side, Castro and Benja have hidden the phones. They've hidden it in the junkyard, and they're basically having a little chat about what will happen when they win the money. And yeah, after that happens, they start walking back home, and the cops show up there as well. And I tried to really, because I watched this twice, like I said, I tried to really conceptualize this and be like, oh, okay, maybe the cops when they were released, like after they got beaten up and stolen from, they remembered the place they were stolen from and they were coming back. But I was like, these guys just hid the phones. Like, we've literally just seen them hiding the phones in one of the rundown cars in the junkyard. But the cops come and they're like, what are you guys doing here? They're like, oh, we're going for a walk. And this is one of the parts where we see Castro just being an entirely bad friend in the entirety of the show. And the cops pull out the bag that had the phones and pour the phones on the ground, and they're like, you guys are in an active crime scene, that means you must have been involved. But I was like, they just hid that bag. Like, I don't know what's happening. I didn't know how the bags were found so quickly. But anyways, Castro ditches his friend. He literally bolts when the cops said they have to be taken in for questioning or taken into the station. So Benja doesn't fight. He's just like, yo, I haven't done anything wrong. Gets arrested, gets taken to the cell. And Castro calls his brother and he's like, yo man, I know you told me to get rid of the phones, but now because of me, Benja has gotten arrested. And this is like a big deal, because remember, the next night he has the wrap-up competition and he's needed there. Like, let me just cut myself short a bit there. In the entirety of the season, there's this really weird hype around Benja, and it's meant to be explained because he's a celeb, like he's an up-and-coming artist and everyone likes his music and everyone likes all these stuff. But it's always so weird. It's like people treat him like a god, and it's just so weird. It's never explained. I don't understand it, but hey, it is what it is, man. Maish gets mad at Castro, and basically Castro can stay home that night, and he goes to Ivy's. And through, like, from the beginning of the episode, we are told that, you know, Ivy and Castro kind of have like a romantic relation. There's a lot of tension that's very weird. But he basically sleeps over at Ivy's place, and Ivy decides to live stream this. So she goes and she's like, guys, it's very unfair that nowadays the cops just assume everyone is a thug, so let's start a hashtag free Benja from prison. And I'm just like, would that work in like real life? I don't know how many people have done hashtags that have helped get people out of prison. But this guy is so important to the show, apparently, because even when we're showing, he ends up having to stay the night at the prison. Benja ends up having to stay the night at the cell. And we see the showrunners of that wrap-up competition. One of them comes in and is like, guys, you know what's happening? Like, where are all my finalists? And basically one of the ladies is like, oh, his friend Castro said he's going to be released from prison soon. He's like, that showrunner gets all serious. He's like, that boy has over 1 million hits on his Instagram. We'll need him in this show or the show is dead. And I'm just like, okay. A way to make this thing a whole catastrophe that it's not. So while they're in the cell, Smalls and Benja are put in the same cell, and that's when we learn that Smalls is a producer who's really been watching Benja's work, and at the same time he's been watching Benja's dad's work, because Benja's dad used to be a really, really popular singer, and yeah, he kind of fell off, but his music is still really loved. And can I just say about a show, for a show about music, I was not feeling the music at all. Like, it was there and it was very, like, they had really good sound design and they really had good songs in the backing track, but the songs Benja himself is making, maybe it's because I'm not a rap fan and maybe I don't understand it, and especially Kenyan rap, I don't listen to Kenyan rap, but his music was so strange. I was just confused the entire time. And ironically, in one of the flashbacks, we get a lot of flashbacks where we see Benja interacting with his father before he left. And in one of the flashbacks, the dad sings a song, and it's my favorite. It literally goes, Nina Tamani ujana wangu du 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 du, mwana kuridhi jina langu du 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 du, maisha simple na pombe yangu, Maria wangu rudi kwangu we. And when I tell you, that is the best song in the entire show. I loved it. I'm singing to myself, like when I'm in the house. I'm just having the time of my life. It was such a good song. Whoever wrote that song, props to you. But the songs in general didn't really fancy me. I didn't enjoy them as much, but that's not the point. Smalls and Benja end up forming a bit of a friendship while in the cell together. And Maish, I forgot to mention, Benja's mom is called Maria. So Maria and Maish also have a strangely close relationship, and I just tried to put it as, their sons, or like Maish's brother and Maria's son are friends, like Benja and Castro are friends, so that's how they know each other. But basically, Maish meets up with the cop who arrested Benja and talks to him and tells him, I'll return the favor, just let this boy out. And this cop, even though I absolutely dislike his character, he asks the most real question in the entire universe. He's like, why does everyone love this boy? You love this boy. My wife always listens to his music. She loves this boy. And like, everyone's really trying to get him out of prison. Like, what does he have? Why is he so special to people? But anyways, Maish, with his connections, being a crime lord and all that stuff, gets Benja out of prison. And Benja goes, he showers real quick, and there's a bit of a rush because the show has started, the wrap-up competition has started, and the female rapper has gone on stage. She's done her business, and they're still looking for Benja. So this is another thing also about social media that finished me, because literally Ivy picks her phone and like asks Castro, oh, where are they, like how far are they? They're like, oh, they're stuck in traffic, they're 30 minutes away. Like now the van that has Lucy, Benja and Smalls driving to the competition, she literally picks up her phone and she's like, guys, Benja is almost at the competition, but he's stuck in traffic 30 minutes. We find a way to stall the show. And my question is like, what do you expect people to do? If I was like at this show, I'd be like, what am I supposed to do? How can I stall this show? I know, like, I don't know the runners of the show. I have no power. But anyways, so Benja arrives, and when he arrives, there's a lady standing at the front, and she's like, I noticed this the second time. I didn't notice it the first time I was watching this, because I was like, oh, what happened? But when he comes, she's like, sorry, Benja, we waited as long as we could. But I was like, weren't you guys a second ago just saying, without him, because he has 1 million followers, without him this show is dead, blah 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 blah, we need him for this show to survive. Anyways, he ends up losing the competition, which was really hyped up at the beginning of the season, where it's like, oh, competition 1 million, but he just lost like that, and then it's never like really discussed again. But I will say, when that lady tells him that they waited as long as they could, Ivy comes outside, Castro comes outside, and they're all standing there. So Ivy, Castro, Lucy, Benja, and Ivy, and Smalls they come out, and he's understandably pissed at Castro, and he starts punching him, like literally punching him and being like, oh, you blah blah blah, you messed up my chance, and then that's literally the end of episode 1. Episode 2. So we finished episode 1 on the note that Benja had just punched Castro in the face for making him lose that 1 million, but it's really glossed over so quickly, because in the second episode all is forgiven and him and Castro are friends. But we open up in club culture, which is this new hip joint in town, and it's hip because it doesn't spell club culture with a C but with a K, because C's are for boring people. And because of this, we get to meet Andrea, who is the club's owner, and she's passed off to be this really rich and powerful lady, but for some reason she knows Ivy, and Ivy has really been trying to connect Benja to her so that she can kind of invest in him, like give him the financial power, because to be a musician you need someone giving you money to make your songs and all that stuff. So Benja performs there, and he's offered some money. He's offered 30k to perform, But during one of the music breaks, him and Lucy get into a big fight, because of course they do. What says love more than people fighting in the first two episodes when they're supposed to be our main couple? But anyways, she fights with him because despite him just starting to gain popularity, he already has a wandering eye. And this is shown because he's very, like, okay, like I said, there are people who worship Benja. Like, everyone wants to take a photo with him, everyone wants to be with him, and especially the women. And every single woman in this show is inexplicably horny. Like, they cannot control themselves around dudes. So the women come up to him and they ask for selfies, but they're always so touchy about it, like, oh, let's take a selfie. And I'm like, I'm not a celebrity by any means, but I'm like, is that how it works in real life? Is that just what people do? But anyways, this is shown because when they're talking, a lady comes up to him and she's like, let's take a selfie. And then she takes a selfie and she whispers in his ear, and then she walks away and says, call me. And as I was watching this, the thought came to my head. I was like, what? Like, that doesn't make any sense, because if she did like whisper her number in his ear, that would have had to be like very fast, because she literally just whispered for like half a second. And if she was whispering her number, I doubt he remembered it, because I literally still have to look at the till number when I'm paying for stuff. Like, I'll be like 65, I forgot, like in seconds. So if this guy is going to remember a whole number of this chick who's just whispered it in 2 seconds in his ear and said, call me. And it's even funnier if she didn't say his name, like her number, because she could have just been like, hey, handsome. Then she walks away and says, call me, which is still weird. But anyway, so she gets mad at him because obviously, even though he's not necessarily like jumping on them, he's entertaining it. Not once does he tell these women to stop, especially when they do it in front of his girlfriend. Not once does he tell them like, yo, I'm with someone. He just kind of like is awkward about it, and he awkwardly goes along. But I understand, like, if you're someone who's awkward and fame comes to you, you'd still be awkward. But he never defends Lucy. Like, he never defends their relationship. So he tells her, you can't get mad at me for what other girls, do, because you're my, you're the only one I love, blah blah. So he starts kissing her, and this is how we find out that Lucy is a pastor's daughter, because she stops him and she's like, yo, I'm a pastor's daughter, like, what if someone took a photo of that? And it's actually so funny because she's the pastor's daughter of the church Benja was raised in. Like, they go to the same church. And he's like, no, but you're my girlfriend. And she brings up a very important point, that's a plot point in this show, is that she's still a virgin. And she's like, oh, but like we said we'd wait. Legit, this guy starts telling her, Ati, oh, but I'm like, whatever, like, but you're my girl. She's like, yeah, but we have to wait. And it's really like, well, I'm tired of waiting. Okay, a bit aggressive, sir, don't you think? I'm like, I'm so tired of the Netflix rhetoric where it's like they're really obsessed with virginity, because it's so weird. Like, let people live, man. And if this is again the couple we're supposed to be rooting for to make it till the end, so far they've just had 2 fights. In the beginning, she made an unfunny joke about his dad leaving him, and now they're fighting because he is starting to have a wandering eye and also still pressuring her to do the deed with him. Anywho, so Lucy gets pissed and she goes home. She's like, oh, I can't have this conversation with you, Benja, right now. And she goes home. So because she was out late, she gets home and both her parents are sitting in the living room waiting for her, and they're like, we're so disappointed in you, Lucy. You should know better. They ask her like where she was. She's like, see, I had gone for Benja's concert. You guys knew about it. I went for his performance at Club Culture. And the parents are like, no, but this is your life. There's so much more you're made for. There's so much more you have to give to the world. And basically they give her that whole speech about like, what that guy does with his life. He's not our kid, so we don't care about what he does. But for you, we care about what you do, and you have so much potential. And this part was so insane to me, because after saying all these things about how she has greater potential and she's so smart and she's so intelligent and there's so much more for her, their answer to their problem is that the mom Lucy's mom got her a job at Quickmart. So that is her passion. That's her purpose. That's the purposeful life she should live, working at Quickmart. Which, again, I'm going to talk about this, I think, at the end of this video, but the blatant sponsorships and branding that's in this movie is ridiculous. Because I was like, what? Like, that's so mean to your daughter. Like, take away her phone, don't take her to work at Quickmart. Not saying anything wrong about people who work at Quickmart, but like, they've just gone on about how she's meant for more and she's so talented, and then they're like, yeah, because of that you get to work at Quickmart. So Parents of the Year award goes to Mama and Baba Lucy. Back in the club, Benja gets introduced to Andrea by Ivy, and Ivy basically tells him, Andrea basically tells him that, I still want to work with you. I want to do. You have great things in store for you, Benjamin. She says something along those lines. I don't remember the exact words. But yeah, he's stoked. He's like, wow, I have a rich woman funding my lifestyle. And it's so insane. Like, goes back to talking about how everyone just drops everything for Benjamin. They love him. They love him so much they're willing to do anything for him. But I don't think you should have that level of commitment to someone, especially someone you've just met. You get, like, anywho, after this, Ivy goes home. She finds her mom passed out drunk on the couch, and she asks her mom, oh, where's dad? She's just like, oh, he's out with his other women. And that's fun to know. I think I saw a review talking about how it would have been more interesting to see the growth of Ivy's character, and I feel like that would have been so true. You know, I guess an influencer who has a troubled home life and is still able to grow past it, because they don't really talk about it much. Because immediately after that episode where after this scene, where she catches her mom passed out on the couch, we don't hear or see her parents ever again. Like, there are times when the friends go to her house, and the parents are nowhere to be found, so they're never talked about again. So I feel like if you're going to do that, you shouldn't have introduced them in the first place, because those characters seem important enough that they shaped Ivy's character. But who am I but just a film student to be judging this movie? After Benja performs, he gets paid, and he's basically like, I have to go back home because my mom's going to be worried about me coming in home late. And Castro is like, yo man, no, the night is still young. You want to, like, basically go home to your mama? Let's go out. So they go to this place. I had mentioned earlier that Benja's dad was a big superstar. His name was George, and George was a really popular artist way back when, and he used to perform at this place. But ever since he left and quit music, the place lost business. That's how important he was. They literally lost business, and it became run down and derelict, and it couldn't be used anymore. So now it was dedicated as a shrine to the dad, not like with weird photos or anything, but it's just, you know, it's a spot that's known that this is where this legend used to come and perform. So that becomes a quick spot for the guys and, you know, the general friend group. And let me just say, how quickly Smalls became a part of this friend group was so weird to me, because they just met in a cell, and this guy knows everything about Benja's dad, knows everything about Benja. Honestly, I guess you could think it's a fan, but honestly, I'd just be confused. I'd be like, yo, I have to beware of this stalker. This person might be stalking me. But anyways, they're all besties. Is that how male friendships work? Because I get that in uni, friendships kind of come very fast, but I'm definitely the type of person to be like, you know, you meet them the first time, then you meet them the second time, and then, like, with time you become closer. But Smalls is just immediately a part of their friend group. I digress. Yeah, they just go there. That's the idea of hanging out. They just go there to hang out, and Castro has brought booze, but throughout the entire season, Benja has this weird thing where he insists he doesn't drink. Like anytime someone offers him alcohol, he refuses. He's like, oh, I don't drink. But multiple times in other episodes, and even in this one, we see him getting high, and I don't really understand the thought process behind that. Maybe someone who doesn't drink, I don't know, because I don't drink and I don't smoke and I don't do any of those stuff. The only pills I'm popping are Tic Tac. But could someone just tell me, is that like a thing? Are there people who don't drink, but they get high? I need someone to answer that question for me, because for me it didn't make any sense. And if that was the case, why act all holier than thou about it? Because he's always like, oh, I don't drink because my body is a temple. Okay, he doesn't say those words exactly, but that's how he acts. But he smokes, gets high, does all that stuff. So if someone can tell me in the comments if that's a thing people do, that would really help. So Benja goes home that evening and obviously gets in trouble with his mom, because this is the second night he's been out late, and she's always had a bit of a reservation about his music career, because it always gives her flashback to his daddy and him leaving them and just basically not focusing on anything else but his music. And now also her other concern is that he's spending so much time wrapping up in clubs that he is not going to church or being whatever. So they get into a fight. She basically says, you're acting like your dad now, and he goes to sleep. Not important. But in the next scene, we see him going to university. I don't know why they add this in the series, but he enrolls himself at a uni, and this uni is called Ribs, RIBS, Ribs. And when he gets there, we learn that Lucy's mom is she actually works there, and Lucy goes to that school, and the entire friend group just goes to that school. So I honestly feel bad for Lucy, because she can't escape her parents anywhere she goes. Her mom works in that school, and at first it wasn't clear what her mom does in that school. It's still not clear now. I think she's some sort of counselor type person. But she basically meets Benja and tells him, oh, the principal of the school has said there's an event in the evening to celebrate all your achievements. You're being awarded for all your achievements. And I'm just like, didn't he just get here? And then she's like, yeah, it's because you're our resident musician, our resident celebrity. And I'm just like, you see, it just brings another aspect of everyone just worshipping this guy. Because I'm just like, imagine being in that school for ages and you see some guy who's just come being given an achievement just because he sings and he raps online. It didn't make any sense to me. But anyways, Lucy is put in charge by her mom to basically make sure that Benja goes through his enrollment and meets in the mom's office afterwards. Meets the mom afterwards in the office. But it's at this point that Benja gets a call from Ivy, and she basically tells him Andrea wants to see him. So he tells her, oh, I'm in school, I can't come. And she's like, well, Andrea doesn't ask, she just says, and you have to do it. No one says no to Andrea. So he basically tells Lucy, deuces, I'm ditching you, I have to go. And she's like, no, but you have this achievement thing you're being given in the afternoon. And he's like, yeah, I'll be back, just cover for me with your mom. So he goes to what's her name, Andrea's place, and she's having this whole posh party and stuff. And when he arrives, she tells him, oh, I think you're so amazing, I want you to tutor my son or to mentor him because he needs a role model in his life. So he's confused because he's like, you don't know me, but like, okay, why do you need me to mentor your son? And then that's when we meet the son of Andrea. He's called Jackson. And he is the most infuriating little kid I've ever seen in a show. Not anything against the actor himself, I just feel like he was an unnecessary addition to the story. But anyways, I think they used him as a plot device, because basically Ivy is one who gives this idea to Andrea, like, yo, you should have whatever mentor your son. So that's arranged. So this kid is literally, he's meant to be like a spoiled kid because Andrea is filthy rich. But there's this part where he says, like, because Benja asks him, do you need mentorship? And he's like, well, there's one time I stole the car and like, but that matatu came out of nowhere. So I was like, how irresponsible is this parent to let her child drive this car until matatu, because they live in Karen. You know how hard it is, or like how far the stages would be from this big house they live in, for this kid to have been able to get in the car, drive all the way, and almost get hit by, like, almost get killed by a matatu. That says a lot about the parents. I'm just saying, man, it says a lot about the parents, and it's just very weird to put that as a character trait for the kid. But hey, he's rich, because even when Benja asks, oh, why did you get arrested, he's like, rich kids don't get arrested. So I guess I'm not a rich kid, I would never know. So maybe it's poverty speaking, but I just feel like that's crazy to put as a character trait for this child. So we're back on campus where we see Smalls going to see Mama Lucy in her office, and it was at this point I started questioning her role in the school, because initially I thought she was the dean, but I think she's more of the school counselor, because Smalls goes to see her. And it was weird, because if she's a school counselor, why is Smalls there? Because we realized that Smalls doesn't even go to that school yet. So they start talking about a guy called Mikey who was important to Smalls and had passed on. So we don't know, as of this episode, we have never seen Smalls and Mama Lucy interact together whatsoever. So I'm wondering how she knows about a guy in his life who died, a friend of his who died, but it's just glossed over and never really spoken about. And the dialogue in this scene is inexplicably bad, because he just starts ranting about a bunch of things. Like, he starts talking about how him and Benja are friends and they're going to make music, and then he mentions that they had gone to the shrine I had told you guys about, and he just says, yeah, and then last night we went to the spot where Benja's dad used to perform, and there was this weird guy called Castro, and he brought booze. Yeah, but let me tell you, life is going great. So I was like, why did you tell her Castro brought alcohol if it was not going to help in any way? Those are the questions I have, because I'm just like, you literally didn't have to tell her about it if you're not going to mention it again. But anyways, Smalls catches up with Lucy and tells her that they find out that they both work at QuickMart, which was so funny to me, because I was like, of course they do, of course they work at the exact same QuickMart, because QuickMart only has one specific branch that everyone goes to and everyone works at. But Smalls and whatever found out they work there, and we had found out that Smalls works there because in the beginning of episode 1 he's being talked to really badly by his boss, who's the manager of the store. That guy just keeps calling him Kafati, Fat Boy, all these just weird names, and his boss is the most annoying character in the entire show, according to me, but you haven't heard it from me. So yeah, that's just what happens. They find out that they work at the same place. Really, there's really no plot progression in episode 2 as much, but that's what happens. Then Ivy convinces Benja to Skype school, because she says school is not important. She found out a long time ago that school is not important. So she tells him that instead of going back to school, he can stay behind and do a live with her where he can interact with his fans and basically answer questions about his music. But Benja finds out very quickly that she has been lying, and the immediate question she asks him when the live starts is, she asks him about his sex life. She really just goes at it. She's like, the fans want to know. And it's this really long and tiring conversation where basically, she talks about, if you're promiscuous, you go out and do your thing, but if you're wait because you want to. And that really strikes Benja, because he's like, but if your partner is waiting and you're not waiting, you're just basically forcing them to wait. And Lucy is watching this live, and I feel like that's actually really painful to say on camera, to like hear your boyfriend say on camera that basically, he feels forced to kind of wait with you. So it's basically like, you shouldn't make your partner wait. And I'm just like, if you're so miserable having to wait for Lucy, just get another girlfriend who wouldn't wait. Like, just break up with Lucy, because you're just shaming her into fitting your stereotype, and I don't think that's very fair. And it was just very weird, and that was just, I'm supposed to be rooting for this couple according to how it's written, but I'm not rooting for them at all. I'll just be honest. I also forgot to mention that at the beginning of the episode, when Benja enrolled in Ribs, he meets Tanya, and Tanya is one of the other girl characters in the show who just can't keep her hands off him, and that she's so enamored, and she just loves his music, and she's also inexplicably horny as well. And she basically sets up a gig for him at the schools. They have this platform where people can perform so that he can perform at Freshers Night. Yeah, and she's going to be important a bit later in this series. Then we get the most aggravating scene in television history, and that's basically Benja and Smalls at the spot where his dad used to perform, and they're talking about a song they had recorded, a very nice song. But Castro walks in with Tanya, and he walks in with some other girl who's supposed to be his pick for the night, and he gets into the most, like, literally a 3-minute long tangent, like a really long conversation of him basically explicitly talking about how the song should be about women's bodies instead of anything. So it should be about women's bodies, it should be about drugs, it should be about alcohol. And maybe I'm too sensitive, but this scene went on for way too long, and I think initially it was supposed to be funny to show that Castro is just a guy who doesn't care. He really doesn't care about anyone's opinion, and he says vulgar stuff, but it went on for too long that it became weird, it became uncomfortable. Anyways, the episode ends with Benja performing at Freshers Night, and he sings the vulgar song that Castro had suggested, and that is the end of episode 2. Actually, that's not the end of episode 2. The end of episode 2 is him taking Tanya to the dad's shrine to show how it looks like after he performs at Freshers Bash. Okay, it's getting late, guys, so I have to wrap this up. Before we start episode 3, I just want to talk about, there's one more thing I missed in episode 2. So when Castro is talking about the vulgar song he wants Benja to perform instead, he gets mad at Benja because Benja started working for Andrea, which is really, like, Castro is just a bad friend all throughout, and it just really shows how he's just very selfish, because he gets mad at him for picking up a gig working for Andrea in almost the weird, like, there's no reason for him to be jealous. Ooh, I'm getting tired, guys. But there's also, before Benja takes Tanya to go see the shrine, that at the top of there's some rooftop they usually hang out on as well, and Smalls is there. Smalls and Benja having a conversation, because Benja walks away when Castro starts getting too vulgar, and she comes up and she literally starts making out with Benja in front of Smalls. As it was so funny because Smalls literally has to look over the edge of the roof to, like, try and ignore it. So the whole reason I'm setting this up is so that we can talk about the beginning of episode 3. Okay, so episode 3 starts in the most annoying way ever. It was not set up entirely, but it starts with Benja and Tanya doing the nasty in the shrine that was meant for his dad. And it's the worst way to set up conversation, because it's a whole 3 minutes of this action happening, and then with pauses in between where they talk, but you can't, like, half of the time the dialogue that happens there is just Tanya being like, oh, so this is where your dad used to perform, and then they're back at it again, which on its own was just very disturbing. I've never enjoyed watching explicit content on Netflix, and it's not because I'm even soft, it's just because it feels like a cheap attention grabber. Like, oh, you want to watch this, it's going to have, you know, people naked in front of the screen, and some people like that, some people don't. I just feel like it's cheap, especially if it doesn't add anything to the character at all. But anyways, during Benja's gigs, Castro has had this habit of selling drugs during. He has dealers, he works with the blades, they get people to sell the drugs. So he gets some drugs from a guy called Stick, and he's planning to sell them at another gig Benja is supposed to be is supposed to be doing. So they're still making music with Small, so they hang out in Small's bed sitter. It's a really nice place, by the way. And I didn't notice this the first time I was watching, I noticed this in the second, but in Small's apartment or room, he has a poster of Disconnect, and I was just dying. I was like, oh my goodness, that is, no one is putting a poster of, okay, I wouldn't put a poster of Disconnect in my room because that movie just infuriated me. But yeah, he has all that. So while they're in his room, it's just him and Benja is teaching how to play guitar. And this is when we start noticing that Smalls is looking at Benja a bit differently. It's supposed to hint towards, his sexuality. And that's not really developed in this episode, but yeah, it happens. Back at school, for some reason, all these people attend the same class. So Lucy is seated at her desk, and her friend comes up to her and she's like, why are you letting other people take your man? The best friend who I said was not important. This is literally the only line she says the entire show. And basically Tanya walks up to their desk and tries to intimidate Lucy, and tries to tell her that, tries to hint at the fact that Tanya slept with Lucy's man. But it's just so weird, and it's so inorganic. The conversations in this show are so inorganic. They're not real things that would happen IRL. At least I don't think they would happen in real life. Maish comes back in the picture, Castro's brother. He finds out that Castro has been dealing with selling drugs without letting Maish know, because Maish is like the overhead, and he basically tells him, you have to stop. In the same wind, Benja confronts Castro again and tells him, please stop selling drugs at my thing. You're going to get me caught, and this is on school grounds. We're going to get in trouble. We're going to get in so much trouble, and you're just going to ruin this for me. You already ruined the 1 million competition thing for me. Don't ruin this for me. So he's like, okay. He goes, talks to the Blades. There's one main guy in the Blades he talks to, and he's like, the deal is off. We're not going to sell Styx's drugs at the concert. And the guys are like, why? It's just like, no, don't sell it anymore. And the guys agree begrudgingly. They're like, fine, we won't sell the drugs. So Benja and Ivy have a conversation, and it's insinuated that they're also going to have something going on between them. And at some point in the school, they have a basketball match, and while they're changing in the locker room afterwards, Smalls accidentally stares at this guy for way too long, and this guy basically just starts berating him and asking him if he likes dudes, like why is he being weird. And that sends what's his name, it sends Smalls into a panic attack, and basically he's in Benja's arms, and Benja is trying to calm him down and all that stuff. After this incident, where it's the locker room incident, we go to the rooftop again. And do you remember, I don't know if you guys remember this random Blade who was at the beginning of the TV series.
Hi, editing Keta here. I've just realized these are not the same guy. So I don't know who the hell this guy is. So yeah, don't know who this guy is.
I don't remember him either, but he starts talking to Smalls, and we've never seen them interact at any point, and basically starts telling him, oh, I won't always be here for you. And I'm like, who are you to Smalls? We've never seen you interact with each other. Who the hell are you? And then in the same wind, we find out that this random Blade, like this guy, has a terminal illness, and we're supposed to care, but we don't know who he is. We don't know who he is to Smalls, how they relate. I literally did not care about this guy at all, and Smalls literally tells him, oh, thanks for saving me in the locker room today. But I was confused, because I was like, Benja is the one who saved you, like he's the one who sat with you while you had your panic attack. But we digress, man. Benja meets up with Smalls afterwards, and they talk about how, Benja's dad used to have panic attacks, and he wasn't really what everyone thought he was. And yeah, he was just a pretender, basically. And after this, Lucy and Benja's mom meet in the church, and they have a little tete-a-tete. They have a little talk, and I think this was set up to kind of show that they were both loving men who loved music more than them. But it was also very unnecessary, because they didn't really talk about much at all. So it's time for Benja's second concert, and remember, Castro had told these people don't sell drugs, but Tanya ends up taking some nose candy, and it ends up being adulterated, and she ends up having a seizure on the floor, overdosing and dying in Benja's arm. He stops mid-concert to comfort her, and she basically dies in his arm. And that is how we conclude episode 3. The sun has set, guys. I think I have talked about this show enough, and we are done with episode 3, so I will have to do a second video for episode 4 to 6. But thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this kind of shed some light on what Volume is about, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please let me know your opinions. Are you going to watch it? Have you watched it? What did you think of it? I personally am very tired. I have watched and rewatched this show until I start having dreams about it, and that is not fun. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. To support my suffering, please give it a thumbs up and keep tabs on me to watch part 2. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. I love you guys so much. It's time for me to sleep. Bye.